Maya Wilson had just moved to the country to start a new job as an English teacher. She was excited but nervous. After hours of searching, she found a small apartment building called the Granger Residence. It wasn't fancy. Old bricks, cracked windows, a bit forgotten by time, but it was cheap and she needed somewhere fast. Her new home was on the 4th floor, room 402. The landlord, Mr. Gray, an old man with gray eyes that seemed to look through you, gave her a strange warning as he handed her the keys. "Stay inside after midnight, and don't ever walk down the long corridor, no matter what you hear." Maya laughed nervously, thinking it was just an old man trying to scare her. She didn't believe in ghosts or curses. The first few days were normal. Maya unpacked, started her job, and tried to make her little apartment cozy. But at night, strange things began to happen. Every night around 2 a.m., Maya would hear soft footsteps outside her door. They weren't normal footsteps. It sounded wet, like someone dragging their feet through a puddle. She tried to ignore it at first, until the third night. That night, the footsteps stopped right outside her door. Then, tap, tap, tap. A slow, heavy knock. She froze, heart pounding in her chest. She stayed silent, not daring to move. After a few long minutes, the knocking stopped. She waited another hour before she fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, she opened her door to check. The hallway was empty, but there was a trail of dark red stains on the floor. They led down the corridor, to a door she had never noticed before at the very end of the hallway. The door was made of dark wood, almost black, and looked older than the rest of the building. There was no number on it, no people, no handle, just a door. Maya asked her neighbor, Mrs. Cooper, an old woman who lived in room 404, about it. Mrs. Cooper's face turned pale. Her hand shook slightly as she whispered, "Don't go near that door. It's not a real door. Years ago, before you moved in, something terrible happened here. Blood flowed so much, it filled the corridor. The people, the screams, we don't talk about it anymore." Maya tried to ask more, but Mrs. Cooper shut her door without another word. That night, Maya lay in bed, staring at her ceiling, unable to sleep. Around 2:13 a.m., she heard it again. Slap, slap, slap. Footsteps. Tap, tap, tap. A knock. But this time, it wasn't at her door. It was coming from the end of the hallway, from the black door. Maya, against every good instinct, got up and quietly opened her door just a crack. She peered out. The corridor was bathed in dim, flickering light. At the end, standing in front of the black door, was a figure. It was tall, thin, and dripping wet, blood soaked through its clothes and hair. It stood with its back to her, facing the black door, swaying slightly. Suddenly, the figure turned its head, just slightly, as if it knew Maya was watching. Its face. It had no eyes, only deep, bleeding holes where the eyes should be. Maya gasped and slammed her door shut, locking it with shaking hands. From outside, she heard a sound, a low, terrible laugh, deep and broken. Then the footsteps started moving, slowly, towards her door. Closer, closer. The lights in her apartment flickered. Maya backed into a corner, covering her mouth to stay silent. Then, the footsteps stopped. A wet, bloody hand pressed against her door, leaving a dripping handprint. Minutes passed. Then the hand disappeared. The footsteps faded away, back down the corridor. The next morning, Maya found a message written on her door, in something dark and sticky. 3 words. "Open the door." The morning after seeing the bloody handprint and the message, Maya stood in front of her door, heart still racing. The words, "Open the door," had dried into a dark brown smear overnight. She stared at it for a long time. Then, telling herself it must have been a prank, maybe from a drunk neighbor, she grabbed a wet cloth and scrubbed the door clean. "Old buildings have weird people," she said out loud, trying to laugh. "Someone's just trying to scare the new girl." Still, the memory of that eyeless face haunted her. At work, Maya struggled to focus. Her students noticed she was quieter than usual. During lunch, she told her coworker Daniel about the strange night. He raised his eyebrows. "Sounds creepy. You sure it wasn't a dream?" "I don't know, maybe," Maya replied. "This place just feels strange." Daniel offered to stop by her apartment one day to check things out. Maya smiled, thankful for the offer, but declined. She didn't want to seem weak. It was just an old building. Old buildings made noises. That night, Maya made herself a cup of tea and curled up on her couch with a book. She was determined not to let fear take over. She even laughed at herself a little. But around midnight, strange sounds returned. Not footsteps this time. Scratching. It came from the walls. Soft at first, then louder. Like fingernails digging through plaster, just behind her wallpaper. She pressed her ear to the wall. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Maya stepped back, confused. Maybe it was rats? But the sound was too deliberate, too steady. It was coming from inside the wall, from behind the wallpaper, like someone trying to crawl out. She placed her hand on the wall. It felt cold. Then suddenly, the sound stopped. Later, as she brushed her teeth in the bathroom, she noticed something strange in the mirror. Behind her, on the far corner of the hallway, there was a faint red light. She turned quickly, but when she looked directly, it was gone. Just a shadow. She sighed. "I need to sleep. My mind is playing tricks." At exactly 2:13 a.m., Maya woke up. This time, there were no footsteps, no knocking. But the air in her room felt heavy, thick, hard to breathe. She looked toward her window. It was foggy, like someone had been breathing on the glass. On the inside, there was something written in the fog. She slowly walked over and wiped the glass, revealing the message. "It's not a dream." Maya stepped back, her heartbeat racing again. She looked around. The room was empty. Door still locked. She grabbed her phone and called the front desk. No one answered. Suddenly, her phone screen glitched, static, then went black. Then, tap, 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 a new noise. Not from her door. Not from the wall. But from under her bed. She held her breath. Crouched slowly. Looked. Nothing. Empty floor. But when she sat back up, she noticed something horrifying. The bedroom wall had started to crack. A thin line, like a spider web, slowly growing, and from the crack, red liquid began to drip. Maya backed away, eyes wide. Then the scratching began again. This time, not just one spot. All around her. Wall, ceiling, floor, like something was moving inside, surrounding her. She covered her ears, shut her eyes, and whispered, "It's not real. It's not real." And just like that, the noises stopped. Total silence. The next morning, the walls were perfect. No cracks. No blood. No scratches. Even the fog on the window was gone. Maya stood in the hallway, staring at the long corridor again. At the end, the black door was still there. No blood this time. But someone had placed a note on the floor. A single sheet of paper, folded in half. She picked it up with trembling fingers. Inside, handwritten in shaky letters. "Don't pretend. It already sees you." Maya tried to continue life as usual. She went to work, smiled at her coworkers, and told herself everything was fine. But every night, something new happened. Something wrong. The sounds in the walls got louder. The lights flickered more often. Her bathroom mirror began to fog on its own, not from heat, but from breath. Like someone stood behind her while she showered. Every morning, she found new messages written in the mirror's condensation. You're already inside. IT knows your name. The door is opening. But the black door at the end of the corridor still hadn't moved. Still no handle. Still no number. One day, Maya decided she needed answers. She went down to the building office and asked Mr. Gray, the landlord, if she could see old records of the tenants. He hesitated. Why would you want those? Just curious, she lied. I like knowing the history of places. He gave her a long, tired look, then handed her a dusty old binder. You won't find what you're looking for. Some things are meant to be forgotten. Back in her apartment, Maya sat cross-legged on the floor and flipped through the pages. Most of the tenants seemed normal. Ordinary names. Moved in, moved out. But one name showed up over and over. Eliza Hart. Moved into room 408. No checkout date. No forwarding address. Just one note next to her name. No contact. Never returned keys. Weird. Even stranger, Maya had never seen a room 408. She stepped into the hallway and counted. Room 404. 406. Then a blank space. A wall where 408 should be. Just clean white paint. No door. No number. That night, Maya had a dream. She was walking down the corridor, barefoot. The walls were bleeding, thick red liquid pouring down the sides. Her feet stuck to the floor. She passed room 402, 404, 406. Then the wall where 408 should have been open like a mouth. Inside, it was pitch black. She saw something move. A shape. Then a voice whispered, "You're sleeping in a room." Maya woke up screaming. Her bedsheets were soaked in cold sweat. But her hands were stained red. She rushed to the bathroom to wash them. The red washed off, but the fear didn't. The next morning, she couldn't take it anymore. She knocked on Mrs. Cooper's door again. The old woman opened only halfway. "What happened to room 408? Maya asked. Mrs. Cooper's lips trembled. "That room hasn't existed for years." "But who was Eliza Hart?" Mrs. Cooper looked away. "She lived in your room. 402. Maya blinked. "No, her file says 408. Mrs. Cooper shook her head slowly. "They changed the numbers after the accident to hide it. The corridor was different then." Maya felt her stomach drop. "What accident?" Mrs. Cooper didn't answer. She simply shut the door. That night, Maya sat in the hallway. She faced the far wall, the one that should have been room 408. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the hallway light flickered once, then twice. And then, something impossible happened. A door appeared. Old, black, no handle, but this time it wasn't the one at the end of the corridor. It was in the middle of the wall, right where 408 should have been. Maya stood up slowly. Her feet moved on their own, like being pulled. Her heart pounded in her chest. A sound came from the door, like breathing, wet and slow. Then she heard a whisper from behind her, inside her apartment. "You're not the first, but you're the last." She turned, no one there. She turned back. The black door was now slightly open. Just a crack. Darkness leaked from it like smoke. Then, a hand reached out. Long, pale fingers. But instead of grabbing her, the hand held up a photograph. Maya stepped forward and took it. It was a picture of her, standing in the hallway. But in the background, behind her, was a reflection in the mirror. A woman in a blood-soaked dress with her face torn away. Written on the back of the photo in smudged ink. "I remember your screams. Just like hers." Maya couldn't breathe. The photograph felt like it weighed a ton in her hands. She stared at it, her vision blurry, as her heart raced. The woman in the photo, the blood-soaked dress, the face ripped away, it was her. She didn't recognize the face in the mirror, but deep down, she knew it was hers. She wanted to throw the photo down, run, escape. But her feet were frozen in place, as if the hallway itself was pulling her toward the black door. The whisper in her ear still echoed in her mind. "I remember your screams. Just like hers." The door opened wider. The darkness beyond it swallowed the hallway light, making everything disappear in shadow. Maya felt the cold rush of air that came from it. It smelled like old, damp earth, mixed with something metallic, like blood. Her hand reached out on its own, trembling. She didn't know why, but she stepped forward, her body moving without her permission. The door creaked, as if inviting her inside. Maya had only wanted answers. She never expected this. She crossed the threshold, stepping into the darkness. The air was heavier here. The walls seemed to close in on her. The space was too small, too oppressive. The floor felt soft beneath her feet, as if she were walking on something wet. And then she saw it. It was just like the one from her dreams. The walls were lined with dark, red stains. The ceiling dripped with thick, blood-colored liquid, making a steady, rhythmic dripping sound. And at the center of the room was a figure. A woman, dressed in tattered white cloth, her face obscured by long, dark hair. She was standing with her back to Maya, her body swaying slightly, as if listening to something. The woman spoke without turning. "I was waiting for you." Maya's breath caught in her throat. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice shaking. The woman turned slowly. Her face, it was gone. Not burned or torn, but simply erased. Empty space where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. Only blood leaked from where her face had been. It dripped onto her neck, onto the floor, forming dark pools around her feet. Maya stumbled back, choking on her fear. "What is this? Who are you?" The woman moved closer. Slowly. Every step was deliberate, as though she knew Maya was frozen, unable to move. "I was the first to hear it," the woman said, her voice a low whisper. "The door, it spoke to me too. Just like it spoke to you." Maya's body trembled. She wanted to run, to scream, to wake up from this nightmare. But there was no way out. "You are me," the woman said softly. "You were always meant to be me." Maya felt her legs give way beneath her. She sank to her knees, her body trembling uncontrollably. "I was Eliza Hart," the woman whispered. "I lived in room 402 before they changed the numbers, before they hid the truth. And I died here in this room. Now it's your turn." Maya's head spun. She felt dizzy, like she was falling into a dark pit. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her throat was dry, her mouth unable to move. The woman raised her hand and touched Maya's forehead. A cold, clammy touch that sent ice through her veins. "It always comes for the next one," the woman said. "You never escape. Not here. Not from the door." Suddenly Maya could see it. The room around her was changing. The walls closed in even tighter, and the blood began to rise, slowly, until it reached her ankles, then her knees. She gasped, trying to scramble to her feet, but her legs wouldn't move. The blood pulled her down, making her feel heavier, weaker. She felt it now. The door was no longer behind her. It was in front of her, standing just a few feet away. It had been there all along. The darkness inside the room consumed her. The blood was up to her waist now, drowning her slowly. The woman's voice echoed in her ears one last time. "We all end here. Together. Forever." Maya reached for the door, her fingers brushing against the black wood. But it was too late. The darkness was closing in, and she couldn't fight it. The blood filled her lungs, and she gasped for air, but none came. The last thing she saw was the door, the same door that had called to her, the one that had always been there, slowly, slowly closing. The next morning, the apartment building was silent. The landlord, Mr. Gray, walked down the hallway, checking rooms as usual. When he reached room 402, he paused. The door was open. Inside, the room was empty. No signs of struggle. No blood. No sign that Maya had ever existed. But on the floor, in the corner of the room, there was a single old photograph, crumpled, stained with dark ink. It was a picture of a woman in a blood-soaked dress, her face missing. The caption underneath read, "Welcome home, Eliza.